Hello, and thanks for watching this video. The goal is just to do a thorough, complete, end-to-end convert from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online file in product. There's some initial consideration before converting from desktop to QBO. It's not just as simple as going to the company menu, in desktop, export company file to QuickBooks Online. I mean, it's a three-step process. That is that simple. But there's some things to consider in the Pro or Premier or even Enterprise file, and there is a way to convert Enterprise as long as ActiveX is supported. You do it through Internet Explorer 11. You can find a video on that on my product video site, quickbooksproductvideos.homestead.com. So I have a PowerPoint I just wanted to run through first, and then we'll go through an actual conversion. Initial considerations, features not yet in QBO. However, there are a lot of third parties that solve for them. The only one that's really unsolvable for a third party right now is labor costing. When you're doing job costing for payroll, you're just going to have to journal entry those amounts in, tag the customer, you're using QBO Plus, and then you've created a budget to actual report so you can see the budget to actual, which is real similar to the estimate to actual reporting you have for contracting in, say, Premier and Enterprise Contractor Edition. The rest can be solved by third parties, but it's important just to kind of look over that list yourself. Anything critical, ask your account manager or someone at Intuit what a good third party would be. Basically, for sales order and inventory, I really love SOS Inventory. For contractors, I like Buildertrend or GetJobber.com. Jobber, they're great. And then for price levels, there's workarounds. Use sub items. And even for job costing, we have a great workaround for that that Stacy Kildall created. So you can also look for a video on that on my website. So just initial considerations, assuming that nothing really calls out in this list to you, or you're going to go QBO with a third party, we'll move on. Now, importing into QuickBooks Online, the transaction targets need to be 350,000 or less. It doesn't have to do with file size anymore, okay? I'll show you where the targets are found in the F2 window. You need to import within the first 60 days unless you are converting a desktop file to the free QBO Plus file we give you in QuickBooks Online Accountant. That has no cap, but assuming you're just going, it's a client's books and they're going to a new QBO sub, you have 60 days to do it. But that is totally reasonable in my mind because you want to do it right away, right after you create the subscription. List considerations. Inactive customers, vendors, and accounts with open balances will be made active again post-conversion. However, items and employees, whether they have a balance or not, they come over as active, actually, even if they're inactive. Now, customers, accounts, and vendors that don't have a balance will come over as inactive. And I mean inactive customers, vendors, accounts will come over as inactive. Other names, there's no other names listed in QBO, so those will be on the vendor list. There's no custom fields for names or items in QuickBooks Online. There's just 3 custom fields on a purchase order or sales receipt estimate invoice, so your sales form. And then no real customer types or sales rep. However, sales rep will come over in one of the sales custom fields. I think it's either the first one or second, the name of the sales rep. And then more on payroll. Again, it breaks it down. Transactions and payroll accounts are converted, right? I mean, you're going to have the balances there for the reports. Paychecks and liability payments are converted as regular checks. Liability, refunds, adjustment transactions, opening balance transactions convert as journal entries. And then, again, a lot of info about the employee is converted, and you can watch my video there on what to do post-conversion to set payroll up again. Now, the desktop file, what do you want to do before converting to QuickBooks Online? You might create and restore a portable company file, verify the data, do a couple rebuilds, make sure there's no data integrity issues. And then converting is easy, and we're going to go do it right now, right under the company menu in the file. So that, and then we'll come back to, well, here we go, that slide. Let's go to my QuickBooks file. And again, transaction targets. How many targets are there? It's not about file size. So you hit F2 or Control 1, it brings up the product information window, and you go down to total targets, right? It has to be less than 350,000. Okay, now what is a transaction target? Let's go to an invoice. It is the lines on the transaction. So an invoice, for example, let's go find one here. This is going to have 4 targets. 1, 2, 3, the markup is a line, and then AR is debited, right? So 4 targets. So if you have a 5-line invoice, it's going to be 6 targets, and so on. Like this would be a 2 target. A check would have, the credit of the asset account and debiting of the COGS or expense or the items, right? So that makes up targets. So if you can there's no way to equate it to file size, but it's important to note that that's the number you're actually looking for when you hit F2. Total targets. It's 4 down from file size. Assuming that works, then it is pretty easy to go. Right? You already know about the initial considerations. We already went over them. This file doesn't have a lot of inventory. I think it actually does have one inventory part, but it's nice to show how it converts. But again, if there's a lot of inventory, I would not do it. Hopefully it's mostly service company, or if it is an inventory company, you're doing QBO Plus with SOS inventory, which I find is a better option than QuickBooks Enterprise, even with advanced inventory, particularly if someone wants to be mobile. That my choice would be QBO Plus with SOS inventory by far. Love what SOS inventory does, and it provides more functionality. But I think I have a lot of service items, of course. QBO is ideal for service items and two-sided items because QBO Plus supports that. And as long as they're two-sided in desktop, they will show up as two-sided in QBO. Those are the initial considerations, things to consider. Then when you're ready, I've done my verify, rebuild, and I'm confident in this file. I want to make sure that post-conversion, I'm going to look at the balance sheet and P&L accrual basis. I might look at AR and AP aging. I'll look at sales tax liability reports. I mean, you'll know the reports to look at to make sure that the data converted correctly. And if for some reason it doesn't, and that would be in the rare case, just, convert it again. But make sure you've done the verification on the file, the desktop file, before you send it. Now, before I do the conversion, let's talk about, well, where is it going? What about the QBO sub? Then you would create the client and then just convert from the desktop to this client. I mean, I can just click Add Client and then put in the information, and I'll just call it, CLA convert, and I'll add it to my list, and then I can choose that, and you guys will see it. But that's not just the only way to do it. So I'll do, CLA convert, and then display name. You fill out the appropriate information, choose the product. They're going to be, essentials. Now they're going to be plus because I had two-sided items and I got class tracking, so I got to choose plus. And the client's going to pay. And I'm the master admin. The client email is going to be me at intuit.com. And again, re-enter it. So you might be setting up the subscription for your client. I'm going to save that. It's going to add the client file to my list. And that's fine. Even if you have QBOA generation 1 or 2, you can create new QBO subs from QuickBooks Online Accountant. Okay. Just remember that when you do the conversion from the desktop file, you'll see when I log in to see my list of client files for the data to go to, I want to make sure I log in with that account and user ID. When I go to company, export company file to QuickBooks Online, I'm going to log in. And based on my email, it's going to find all those QuickBooks Online subscriptions that are linked to my email address. That's why you got to know who signed up for QBO. So I'm going to do, in my case, my QBOA login to find that CLA convert. If my CLA convert file was signed up by the client, I would put the client's user ID and password here, right? Or maybe I used a different email or something like that, but I did it through QBOA, so I'm going to do this. Password, I read and agree, and you click sign in. So that's one thing to highlight. And here's my list of company files that I want to go ahead and send this data to. And you'll see CLA convert, right? Heads up, you'll overwrite any data you've created with this company. Now, another way to create a QBO sub is through the export process from desktop, right? You can create one on the fly. But then I got to go and have them invite me as an accountant user or do it myself. And I just think starting it from QBOA is way easier, right? Because I don't have to get the accountant user invited. I already am the accountant user when I set up the file from QBOA. So that is a benefit. But it's really up to you. And honestly, most days I don't have a dog in the fight. So I'm going to click continue. It's making a copy of the company file. Yep. And then you should see a success window. It looks good. We'll take it from here. Okay, got it. And you're going to get an email, and they're going to send it to the email, right, that you just signed up with. So when you get the email, click to log into your QBOA or QuickBooks Online, depending on, who actually you're logging in as or who you set up the subscription as. I did it through QBOA, so I'm just going to go to CLA convert. You can see it brought over the closing date, not the password, but the closing date, right? So I'm just going to click the realm picker and CLA convert. It's going to bring me into the QuickBooks Online file, and we should be able to see some data. So on this side, again, you want to go to reports and check your products and services list and chart of accounts under the gear icon, right? Your preferences don't convert, so go to company settings, set that up. Chart of accounts, make sure the parent and subs are correct. Go to your products and services. No memorized transactions came over, so you're going to have to create those. Manage users to invite other users to the company file, right? You can reconcile do a mass reconciliation. Again, sometimes it just comes over as checked as cleared, but you still need to be reconciled. The reconciliation itself is undone. Budgets won't come over, so here's where you'd go ahead and create more budgets. And then the key reports, we'll get back to the products and services list later, but profit and loss. And I want to open this for all dates and do accrual basis and do all dates and run that. And that should match like for example, my total income 408, 220.92 should match, this report here for all dates for 408, 220.92, exactly. And then you would do the balance sheet, all dates. I have total assets 4611. Go back to QBO. And again, you can duplicate the tab if you want to have more than one window open within the same QBO file. I'm going to go back to reports. And I have P&L open in one and a balance sheet open in another. I'm going to do all dates, 46111. Yeah, so that's good. And then, QBO has a transaction detail report as well, accountant reports. Scroll down and you go ahead and click on transaction detail by account. One trick for this one, and I'll do all dates. I want to do that same, what's in undeposited funds. I'm going to group by account and sort by, leave the columns as they are, but when you go to the list section, which is filter, I'm going to choose transaction type payment, and distribution account is going to be undeposited funds. Distribution account. And you run the report, and that total at the bottom should match what you have, for all dates in desktop. 352, 172.50, and then desktop 352, 172.50. And it just goes on from there. I mean, you guys will think of the other reports you need. The register balance would probably be a good one to look at as well. So again, QuickBooksProductVideos.Homestead.com. Click on QBO, and you scroll down. A couple good ones here. How to resolve inventory after converting from desktop to QBO. It's 11 minutes, and then you got a 12-minute on payroll. At the end of the day, a simple process, or can be, but there are some initial considerations, and I just kind of wanted to do a more thorough overview of converting from desktop to QBO, and I hope that this was helpful.